Wait for that to start up. All right, we're recording. Okay, welcome everybody. Oh, it looks like somebody else jumped in. Hey, thanks for jumping in. If you wouldn't mind just hitting the Nearpod link to get in there. We're gonna start and get going. Okay, let me just share my screen real quick. And I always like to run through some things before at the very beginning of class just to make sure we are all on the same page, okay? So as you go into the course, remember, if you miss any of the lessons or whatever, the recordings are posted to the announcements right here. As you can see, all of our lessons are right here. If you go to plan, this is kind of what we need to go over. I need to emphasize. Okay, it's today right now is the 5th. You have last week's assignment that was due, and this week's, I'm going to zero it out on Friday, okay? All you have to do is a quiz today at the end. That's going to be your exit ticket and the last thing you need to do for the class. So if you need some assistance, that kind of stuff, there is like a week. And actually, if you're a senior, you probably need to be done by next Friday, okay? So if you're a senior, we need to get that credit in, okay? If not, you probably have until about the 26th to get everything done. The reason I'm zero everything out right now is just because of seniors, and we need to make sure that we're everybody is good to go with graduation and stuff like that. And if not, we need to figure it out, okay? So that's why we're zeroing out so soon in the block. Okay, this will be your assignment this week. We're just going to be going over corrections. You can click on this, and this will take you to like a PDF and show you what you need to kind of know for the quizzes, or it's going to be what we're going to go over on the Nearpod here in just a second. Okay, so any questions in regards to what needs to be done, all of that stuff? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. So we're going to talk about corrections today, okay? So talking about the prison system, the jail system, parole, all that kind of good stuff. Okay, you may have seen these people before, okay? Hollywood behind bars. You got Robert Downey Jr., Snoop Dogg, Justin Bieber, Mel Gibson, Hugh Grant. I'm trying to think of some of these other ones here. Some are unrecognizable to me. So, they've all kind of ran into some legal trouble at some points in time, okay? And so you may even yourself at some point in time run into some legal trouble as well, okay? Hopefully not to the extent where they have to take a mugshot. All right, we're going to listen to this video about the history of the prison system. It's very interesting to kind of learn about this history because it's just been so kind of punishment based for such a long time. They're trying to go in and reform that as now, just because they learned that they have people as like a revolving door, kind of like we talked about the juvenile justice system last time, right? Somebody commits an offense, they're more likely to commit an offense there, and they don't get the help that they need. So, okay, so this is very interesting. So let's listen to it. All right, so that was a lot of information in a little jam-packed video, but it was kind of a good overview just to kind of see what the process and history has gone through. So there's 3 goals of corrections, okay? One is retribution, okay? We're going to talk about that. The other one's deterrence. The next one is rehabilitation, and the fourth is custodial. You're going to want to know these 4 things because that's what's going to be on your quiz, okay? Some of the things that are on your quiz, okay? So retribution, okay? This is basically like an eye for an eye theory, okay? Somebody does something bad to you, you should do it back. Those who support this goal feel that people who break the law do so on purpose and deserve to be punished, okay? So just kind of think about that. If somebody did something wrong to you, they should get that same thing done to them. And that's what a lot of it was before, right? You know, even kind of worse, like for example, if you stole something, right, they may cut off one of your hands. Ugh, I don't want that to happen, right? Okay, the next one is deterrence. Okay, deterrence is the penalty should exceed the true value of the crime in order to show people that crime does not pay. Okay, so punishment needs to be made public. And so you think about public hangings, maybe back in the Wild Wild West, right? Or it looks like they have some whippings going on right here. In modern days, it was interesting. A judge required a juvenile to hold up a sign on a certain very busy intersection that basically said, "I am a thief," something something, right? So that's would be deterrence, to try to get you to say, look, it's not worth it. Don't do it because I know the punishment's really bad. The next one is rehabilitation. Okay. This is considered the most humane policy. And this is kind of what we're leaning a little bit more to now. The purpose is to change the guilty party so they no longer need or want to commit crimes. So, for example, I have a brother and sister-in-law that run a drug court down in a southern Utah town, and they're the ones that are the counselors that work on that substance abuse, right? And they're working on rehabilitation so they do not go back into the system, okay? And so try to get their dependents off of, some type of drugs or something like that, okay? Or try to change the way it is so you can be a productive member of society. So rehabilitation is kind of the most humane. The next one is called custodial, okay? The goal is not concerned with the cause of the crime, nor is there any effort to change the criminal, okay? So it's basically, we are just going to lock you up, okay? We just don't want you on the street. You've done something. We're just going to keep you there, right? Keep you in custody. All right. So let's have a little bit of interaction here. Okay. Which theory do you support the most? Okay. Out of those 4. Okay. Retribution, deterrence, rehabilitation, or custodial, and why? Okay. Which one do you feel is the best? And maybe you think there should be a little bit of a combination of both, but go ahead. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Rehabilitation, somebody said. Okay, so why do you feel rehabilitation is the best? Okay, rehabilitation to help people. Yep, I think that's a good way to do it, right? they're just going to go and you let them out and they get back on the system and then they're back in, that's not any better, right? Rehabilitation and retribution, depending on the severity of what they did. Okay, I like kind of how you said that. That's been a little bit of a common theme throughout it, is that, hey, we think that, you know, some crimes are so egregious that therefore they need to be punished at a level that knowing that they can't do this, right? That you know, they've harmed somebody so bad and you cannot take what they have done back, and so you have both of it, right? So, and we've somewhat done that in the criminal justice system. There's different types of prisons out there, right? There's like you've probably heard of the high max prison, right, where they hold all the very violent offenders, and then you also have other ones where they're kind of more, I guess they call white collar, right, where they're you know, businessmen that did something very egregious and unethical, you know, stealing money, but they're not a violent offender. Okay, they don't mix the two now. They've kind of separated those, and they're working on rehabilitation with a lot of those ones that are lower level. Another thing is, you know, small crimes like drug crimes and stuff like that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about adult probation and parole. Okay, so adult APMP provides pre-sentencing report to the court when it is defiant is awaiting, or a defendant, I'm sorry, is awaiting sentencing. Okay, they are accountable to the sentencing judge. So what you can do, right, is after a while you have maybe served your time or done things, you can get put on parole where you have to probably do some community service. There are a bunch of check-ins that you need to do. Some of them require that you wear like monitoring anklets and other things such as that to be able to, you know, make sure that they don't run off, right? So that's something in the part of rehabilitation. In that point, you have to, like, there's some things like holding down a job, which is kind of really hard to do if you have some type of criminal record, right? It's hard to be able to go into an area and be able to work if you have a criminal a record or offense where you're at. So this is overheard. Granting a parole to inmates is overseen what's called the Utah Board of Pardons and Parole. They hear each case, and each case is kind of individualized depending on what happens. Okay, let's talk a little bit about prison life. Okay, hopefully none of you ever have to figure out what this is. Remember, there is a difference between jail and prison. Prison is long term. Jail is just short time. Jail is less than a year. Prison is a year or more. So there's some key elements of prison experience. Is the classification of incoming inmates. Okay, this is a systematic process of new inmates by establishing a program of treatment and indicating the privileges to be allowed and the restrictions to be imposed. Okay, so if you're very violent, something like that, they're probably going to keep you locked down somewhat, right? Most inmates are given a job in the prison and they are paid a very small wage. However, inmates are not allowed to keep the money and are given an account which the prison oversees. So they're able to give and take away depending on what they feel. Okay. Visitation is considered a privilege, which can be disallowed or limited if needed. Guards operate the prison, but much of the day-to-day operation is handled by the inmate trustees. Okay, so there's certain jobs that some prisoners like, and there's some that they don't, and there's kind of a hierarchy to get into a good places and good graces, because they're kind of the ones that run a lot of the system, and the guards just kind of run it, right? So there's different prison rules. One thing is this is kind of interesting, that they must bathe thoroughly with soap and water at least 3 times per week. Okay, you can imagine if you got a bunch of people in an area and they did not bathe more than 3 times a week. Hopefully it's more than that. Okay. Another thing is, you probably heard of prison tattoos. Tattooing is prohibited, but there's a lot of things that are prohibited that maybe still go on in prisons. There's something called shakedowns. Okay, inmates and their property may be searched at any time and under any condition, with or without the inmate's presence. So there's a lot of things that go into prisons that they try to keep out, but when there's a will, there's a way, right? So visitors will try to sneak things in. They try to send gifts that are kind of anonymous, that can try to get in. They throw things over the prison walls to get to prisoners. They even had drones that will come and drop something, right? So it's kind of interesting, the type of things that can kind of get in there. Okay, trends in corrections. Okay, so a lot of things that are going on right now. You've probably seen, like, it used to have like the stripes. The prisoners now, they usually wear bright orange jumpers or clothing, just so they can distinguish between them and the general public. A lot of what they do now, they feel like that they need to do community service as alternative to some jail time. It also gets inmates out and about when they can do that. So there's day fines. An individual who has received a fine would pay the proportional amount to a specific portion of his wage. So if there's something, so for example, I mean, there's all kinds of things like in the items that they want, right, that they can buy from the store, maybe a candy bar or something like that. If they do things that are inappropriate, not following their jobs, that kind of stuff, they can get fines and things taken away from them. Okay, the size and location of the correctional institutions. So future jails and prisons will probably be much smaller than they are now. Future prisons will be located in cities and suburbs where inmates can locate a job, find recreation and schooling, and maintain family ties. What they've talked about doing actually before is they actually would take the inmates a long ways away from where they live, and they found out that if they can get them with family, around family and stuff like that, it's actually a little bit better for them, because they can they have roots there, as long as they're not dealing with other kind of offenders as well. So things are starting to go back into where they're located. Restoration of offender rights. Okay, after years of good behavior release, offenders can vote, run for office, and erase their criminal record. Okay, and so that's something with, we all do things wrong. I hope we all kind of think that, hey, we want maybe a second chance. And so same with prisoners, right? They want kind of that second chance in life if they can. Okay, so prisoner rights. So prison officials cannot open letters addressed to the inmate's lawyer. Okay, so one thing is that they found that the rights of individuals in prisons were being violated, and so here's some things that they did. So you can't open up your lawyer and a letter from your attorney. An inmate can be prohibited from having a long hair. A cell can be searched anytime for any reason. Okay. The prisoner is not required to pay inmates minimum wage. And so that's something, I think there's like a copying place where actually a lot of schools use to get their copies made of packets and stuff like that. It's made at the prison, the Utah prison, like at the point of the mountain. But they do not have to pay like the standard minimum wage, which is like, I think it's 8 some, maybe it's like 9 something now. I don't know exactly what minimum wage is, but somewhere around there. Okay, here is another one. So capital punishment. This is something to be a hot topic that people are either in favor for or opposed to the death penalty, and why. Some crimes, some people feel that are so egregious that, you know, if you take somebody else's life or multiple people's lives, that the death penalty should happen, and others believe that it's completely inhumane and they should just serve a life sentence. But anyways, it would be interesting to hear kind of your guys' opinion on that. And this will kind of end our class here. But a little bit of discussion if you want to open this up. Are you in favor or opposed to the death penalty, and why? Okay. I know it's kind of a deep philosophical question, but it's something good to kind of leave you hanging. So somebody said, yes, I think that there are people in the world that deserve the death penalty. Okay. There are some very, very, I think almost, I'd call them evil people, right, out there that they want to hurt and take the lives of others, and it's not a good thing. Yes, evil. Okay, yep. Agreed there. Any other thoughts? I'll give you some time to kind of put that on there, but as I do that, just a reminder real quick. You do have a quiz today that's found under if you go to content, unit 6, that will be your exit ticket today, the unit 6 quiz. Make sure you do that, and then grades will be zeroed out on Friday. Okay. If you're a senior, get everything in by like the 14th. Okay. We've got a little bit to do. I'll help you on that however you want. But that's kind of where we're at. Any questions, concerns? I guess I'll stop sharing now. So the exit ticket is that lesson 6 quiz, and it's about just what we talked about today. Okay, the retribution, deterrence, rehabilitation, custodial, those things, and then a couple other things on there. All right. Well, I'll stay on for a little bit. If you do have any questions, I'll stick around. Thanks for joining me today.